And we are pleased to be joined by the Director of Amateur Scouting for the Detroit Tigers, Scott Pleis. And Scott, there are so many questions that we have leading up to the amateur draft coming up, whenever that might be. It was originally scheduled in June. It's obviously might be pushed back during the suspension of play. Can you just, why don't we just start with how you're doing and how's everybody in your family? These are strange times, and your job certainly hasn't gotten any easier with the shelter-at-home orders.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different, Dan, and I appreciate you having me on and hope you guys are doing well too. But everything's fine here. I think we're like everybody else. We're getting kind of tired of being around the house and ready to get out and get some things done. But it's just a little bit different times right now.
So the draft was June 10th. What is the current, do you have any updated information on when it might be now? I know it's still up in the air, but are you getting a feeling it's probably going to be more July than June?
No, I mean, we've got some information in the last few days that it's going to be June 10th. So it'll be the, the earliest date they mentioned.
All right. Well, let's talk about Tigers. Overall, #1 pick for the second time in 3 years. There is certainly a lot of attention that goes with it. Let's start with how this current suspension of play, and you're at home and not at the office, surrounded by all your coworkers and scouts and people that you get ready for the draft with. How has it changed how you prepare for the June 10th draft?
Well, obviously, we're not watching players on the field right now. We're not seeing games and that sort of thing like we would be this time of year. We'd be going every day, different state, different ballparks, doing that kind of thing. But since we can't do that, we're doing a lot of analytics, a lot of video, a lot of communication in between the scouts and the cross-checkers and the national guys, and prepping lists and going over reports. And gosh, I think the other day, the last month, we probably wrote 700 video reports. So we're doing everything we can since we can't physically go to a game. Is basically what we're doing.
What do you feel you've lost by not being able to go out and scout guys individually? The loss of roughly 2 months worth of play from mid-March to certainly mid-May and into June for the College World Series. What do you feel like you've lost in terms of that ability to find that diamond in the rough, or to find not just that guy #1, but the guys in the later rounds?
Yeah, it's so different. I mean, obviously, when you see something, it's much better than video, even though video is a useful tool. But you just don't get to see how electric and how dynamic a player is off video. You just don't get that feeling when you're seeing him live. And that's everybody. So when I'm talking to my guys and they're telling me what they saw at the ballpark that night or the week before, it's a very different feeling of the excitement you hear out of their voice when they talk about a player, to how much they like him, where they think he should fit in the draft, such like that. But nothing replaces seeing him live, for sure.
And you think of how somebody's stock might change in those last few weeks or the last couple of months leading up to the draft. I mean, I'm guessing you can tell me, a guy like Riley Green, a high schooler especially, he can really increase his draft stock in those weeks leading up to the draft. And I'm guessing, I know he was on a lot of short lists, but that's the kind of guy that can certainly change an impression or at least increase his stock with a couple more months of play.
Absolutely. That's a huge thing, especially for the college guys got to start. The high school guys, a lot of those guys, their seasons didn't even start. So they didn't get the opportunity to show us what they had, what they've maybe, maybe they worked out really hard in the off season. They're really prepared to show us, get in front of the scouts in the spring. They didn't get a chance to do that, which is it's good and bad. Some of these guys were going to show us a different part of them, a different side of them. And some of these guys were going to go the other direction. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see either.
In every sport, at every draft position, it seems like you hear the key is to get the best player at that position. You don't draft for need because you're trying to reduce your chances of failing on a pick, or increase your chances, I should say, of succeeding on a pick. That is true. I've seen your quotes. We're going to get the best guy available. How obviously it's ideal at 1-1 that somebody separates themselves from the pack. Do you feel that's happened in the last, since you began preparing for drafting number one overall?
Well, we've got to narrow down to probably a handful of guys for our first pick, and we're still doing a lot of homework on those guys and making sure what we're doing there. But also, as you alluded to, I've said many times that we're going to take the best player. The best case scenario is when the best player fits a need, obviously, but we're still going to take the best player because you just can't. If you start getting selective and it may be by position or hitter over pitcher or vice versa, it just ends up biting you in the future because you want the most impact you can possibly get for your organization, and that's the way you got to go.
Just to give fans a feel for how much things can change. I remember at the end of 2017, Brady Singer was a guy at that moment in the fall of 2017 was the guy that many thought the Tigers might draft at number one the next year. Well, by the next year, Casey Mize had rocketed to number one and Brady Singer had fallen. How much did in those final few months when you drafted Casey Mize in 2018, how much did he move up the charts, or did he kind of establish himself by, I don't know, the turn of the year or February, March as the guy that you were really expecting to pick at number one?
Well, Casey obviously separated himself that year and did really well, and he did everything he needed to do to be 1-1. But a lot of times what gets in the media and what we're looking at is obviously different. So we knew who these guys were. We like Brady. Brady's a great talent and a great person, and obviously we liked him too. But we had these other names right in there with him, and we were just waiting to see how it was going to pan out in the spring.
But that season really did help you determine, obviously, who went number one.
No question. Yeah, I mean, really, yeah. Luckily, or however you want to say it for us, it became an easy decision. We thought at the end Casey was the best guy by far, and it made it a little easier to select him and not maybe grind it out over 2 or 3 or 4 guys.
You talk about the handful who you're looking at right now, and it seems like that short list would be, let's see, Spencer Torkelson, Austin Martin, Spencer Torkelson, Asa Lacy, a pitcher, Spencer Torkelson certainly seems to have rocketed up on everybody's list as the guy who separated himself from the pack. I know you're not going to tell us today who you're going to pick at number one, but can you just describe for fans, when you're talking about a first baseman hasn't been drafted at 1-1 since 2000, Adrian Gonzalez, versus a guy who, by all accounts, can play short, can play center field. I guess he's also can play at third base. Some of the factors that you weigh, because position does matter. You're also weighing the bat, but you're weighing the position and his defensive abilities as well.
Well, for Spencer, obviously, he is a first baseman right now. He's a good athlete, though. He's not just a guy that you stick over there and he's going to hit for you. So he's going to hit. He's going to show you the power. And I wouldn't rule out him doing another position. He's that athletic. He's shown that, and he could possibly do that. And that'll be a discussion for later, whoever gets him. But Austin Martin, a tremendous athlete, played multiple positions, good hitter, shows power, stuff like that, a different dynamic in him. Asa Lacy, top of the rotation stuff, left-handed, great body, good stuff. I mean, we really have, and there's more, but we really have a good list of guys to pick from. I just wish we had more time to see him.
Yeah, and that, like you said, go back to that, being able to have eyeballs on makes a difference. Describe how analytics, you've mentioned it, we've certainly talked about it through the years, how much Al Avila has beefed up the analytics department, but how does it help, compared to, say, 2 years ago, help you, try to figure out and project a high school kid or a junior coming out of college, for that matter, try to project them, their development and what they might do at the major league level. Has it been, even in 2 years, kind of leaps and bounds, and how much that helps?
Oh, Dan, Al has done a tremendous job getting those tools for us. And it almost verifies what you saw or what you think you're going to project on a player, or what you don't see or what you don't like about a player. It kind of verifies also just way more information that we're getting now, credible information that has helped us tremendously. And, for a long time, we weren't, up to speed on that. And we've really hit it hard, and we've made big strides, and Al and Jay and everybody else have done a tremendous job to get us up to speed now.
Scott, give us a feel for, I know you're spending so much time preparing for the June 10th draft, but you're also, I'm sure, thinking ahead. This is going to be a shortened draft, whether it's 5 rounds or whether it's 10 rounds, maybe short again next year. Some high school kids that might have gone in the draft might now go to college. Some juniors who might have come out might go back for a senior year of college. The landscape for you and your job as director of amateur scouting is really going to, you're going to have some real challenges, it seems like, in the coming years because of the interruption in play this year, the interruption in play for these high schoolers and college kids.
Correct. And I've said this on other interviews, and I've spoken about it before. Really, the process, other than the difference between not going to games physically, the process is pretty much the same behind the scenes, with getting our data together, knowing the makeup, the signability, their history, all that kind of stuff. So the process will remain the same. So we'll work at that and make sure we're prepared. And pretty much that's always the same, is do everything you can possibly do to be 100% prepared, so there's no surprises at the draft. A little bit different this year because the rules have changed a little bit. We don't know. Like you said, it's either going to be 5 rounds or 10 rounds. There's an extra year of eligibility in there. There possibly, if we do 5 rounds, there's, the draft money will be different. So it'll be different for the agents. It'll be different for the players. It'll be different for us. So everybody's walking on a little softly on how they're going to figure out how to do this. So our job is to prepare for everything and know the players as well as we can know them, and then just be prepared for whatever situation comes our way.
I know you're not in charge of the minor leagues, but you're obviously very interested in, once you draft these guys, to see them develop. And that's going to be obviously a big issue this year. What are some of the possibilities? Because fans want to know. This is a farm system, a Tiger farm system that's gone from maybe bottom 5 to, well, in many cases I've seen top 10, as high as number 6 in all of Major League Baseball. You want those guys to continue to develop, and the minor leagues, it's going to be a little bit tricky this year to play games. What do you envision in terms of, I think of the Riley Greens and the Parker Meadows of the world, the guys who are at the lower minor league levels? How will they get a chance to continue to develop their skills this year, if not in the absence of a minor league season, in a shortened minor league season?
Well, that's a really big hit. I know all the focus is always on the major league team and what's going to happen there, and that's obviously the way it should be. But for us, looking at our players, our prospects, it's going to be very difficult for them, and you can't get it back. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody does as far as the minor league season, whether it's a short season, no season, whatever. Can we get together later? I don't know. Nobody really knows yet, but it's a tough hit. These guys need to get on the field. They need to compete. They need to progress and develop. And this is just missed time that they're not going to get back. Just
to wrap up, 1-1 pick. It sounds like this is a fairly deep draft, and it sounds like you're going to be pretty happy with the guy you get at 1-1, whoever that might be.
Yes, Dan, I tell you what, it is a deep draft. We're not only going to be happy there, our picks that we have, obviously we're getting a comp pick, and we're picking first pick in every round. So that's a big deal. Everybody likes that 1-1, and I do too, but those early picks in every round are a huge help. So we're looking forward to it, whether it's 5 or 10, and we're going to have a good draft, and we'll be ready to go, and hopefully we can get on the field at some point.
That's the whole key. We're all looking forward to that, aren't we?
Yes.
Scott, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to that June 10th draft to see who's at 1-1.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. The headliner is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer with great taste and only 96 calories, now available for delivery. Back to you, Daniela.